Hello everyone, tonight we are standing at the edge of a swamp that feels older than time itself. The air hangs heavy with the scent of wet earth and moss, and somewhere nearby water drips in slow hollow plunks that echo into the dark. You shuffle along a narrow slippery path your shoes if you were smart enough to wear any already sinking into the mud with each cautious step. The moon, a hazy smudge behind thick clouds, barely lights the scene. But wait, there it is. Ahead of you, scattered like stars fallen from the sky, are tiny points of blue-green light. They blink in and out, soft as candle flickers moving ever so slowly, like ghostly lanterns swaying in an invisible breeze. You pause as your breath catching, realizing that these aren't tricks of your tired eyes. The glow comes from small shapes, frogs, ancient frogs. Their skin emits a strange, otherworldly light that shimmers faintly over the water's surface and the slick, mossy stones. For a second, you think maybe you've stumbled into a prehistoric rave. But no, this is nature's quiet, subtle show, and you probably won't survive if you're expecting disco balls or party snacks out here. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You crouch low, feeling the cold seep through your clothes as you try to get a better look. The frogs sit still, scattered among reeds and patches of floating green. Their glow seems to come from within like tiny fireflies trapped beneath translucent skin. The glow pulses gently, as if keeping time with some ancient rhythm only they can hear. One by one, their little throats expand and contract as they let out soft chirping calls that blend perfectly with the symphony of insects' distant croaks and the occasional splash of something unseen. The odd thing is, no one knows exactly when frogs like this began to glow. But fossil evidence suggests some species of prehistoric amphibians had adaptations in their skin that could have reflected or emitted faint light. Just imagine millions of years of frogs learning to trick the night itself. You take another cautious step and the ground gives slightly beneath you. The mud is thick, clinging to your feet with that special kind of swampy determination. The frogs don't seem to mind. Their glow keeps flickering, some brighter, some barely visible, creating a dreamy, shifting pattern across the water's surface. You think for a second about how bioluminescence isn't as rare in the animal kingdom as people think. Fireflies, deep-sea fish, certain fungi, they're all part of nature's little light show. And here you are, front row at a performance that started long before humans showed up to mess things up. Above the canopy rustles with the faintest whisper of movement. You glance up, and for a second you spot two round, glassy eyes reflecting what little moonlight filters through the clouds. The hunter watches. But that's not for tonight. For now, it's just you, the swamp, and these tiny glowing guardians of a time forgotten. The frogs begin to shift slightly, some hopping lazily from one perch to another, their soft light smudging like watercolors on the night's canvas. A breeze carries the smell of rotting wood and damp moss, and somewhere far off, a splash hints at something larger moving through the swamp's depths. You suppress the urge to bolt. Instead, you stay still, entranced by the quiet spectacle in front of you. One frog, a little larger than the others, seems to be the brightest. Its skin glows with a strange pattern, a looping, spiraling design that could almost be mistaken for ancient markings carved by forgotten hands. You blink and look again. It's just skin, just nature's art. But for a heartbeat, you wonder if these frogs were once seen as sacred, as little spirits guiding lost souls through treacherous marshlands. Historians still debate whether early humans interacted with these glowing frogs in meaningful ways. Some cave paintings, faint and weather-worn, show tiny creatures surrounded by radiating lines, but was that artistic license or evidence of our ancestors' fascination with bioluminescence? No one can say for sure. Maybe those ancient artists were just as captivated by these gentle glows as you are now. As you kneel there, trying not to breathe too loudly, the frogs continue their slow hypnotic dance. The glow you realize isn't steady. It comes and goes, not quite in unison, but not entirely random either, like an orchestra where everyone's playing the same tune just a beat or two apart. Some scientists think that kind of pattern could confuse predators, creating a shimmering blur that's hard to track. Others say it could have been for attracting mates because nothing says romance like glowing in the dark when you're a frog. A mosquito lands on your arm and you swat at it with little success. Another reminder that even in the middle of an ancient wonder, nature finds ways to annoy you. Somewhere in the distance, a frog lets out a long, low croak that sounds suspiciously like a snore. You almost laugh. Almost. But the swamp holds its breath, and so do you. That breeze returns cool and damp, carrying with it the first hints of something more ominous. The clouds seem to thicken, and the moon's smudge of light grows even fainter. The frogs don't care. They keep glowing, keep pulsing in that ancient rhythm. And somewhere above those owl eyes gleam unblinking, waiting for their moment. The night deepens around you, the kind of deep where shadows pile thick upon each other, and the air feels heavier somehow, as if the swamp itself is exhaling slowly, waiting. You tilt your head back just enough to glimpse the source of that uneasy prickle along your neck. And there it is, perched silently in the crooked branches of an ancient tree. An owl. Its outline is little more than a soft smudge of feather against the dark, but its eyes, those enormous round orbs, shine faintly as they catch the scattered glow of the frogs below. You stay very still, feeling as though even your heartbeat might betray your presence. The owl's gaze is fixed, its head turning in that slow, eerie way owls have, the kind of movement that makes you wonder if it can see through to your thoughts. Its feathers ripple in the breeze, blending perfectly with the twisted bark. If not for those glowing eyes, you might miss it altogether, like some old forest spirit watching from above. Somewhere in the world right now, a historian is probably sipping tea and arguing over when owls first evolved this perfect stillness, this silent, predatory grace. Fossil records suggest that owls, or at least their ancestors, have been haunting the night since the Paleocene, adapting with brutal efficiency to their role as masters of nocturnal hunting. And here you are watching that legacy in action. The owl shifts talons, gripping the branch tighter. The frog's soft glow paints little reflections on the black water, and the predator calculates. You can almost hear the math happening behind those unblinking eyes, distance angle timing. It's a waiting game, and the owl's patience could put any chess grandmaster to shame. A mosquito buzzes too close to your ear, and you resist the urge to swat it, half convinced the owl might swoop down at the sound. The air seems to hum with tension. Even the frogs, those tiny glowing tricksters, seem to sense the weight of the moment. Their lights flicker in odd, uneven bursts now, as if they're deliberately throwing off the predator's aim. Historians still debate whether this pattern was an evolutionary accident or a cunning defense developed over millennia of owl attacks. One camp argues the glow evolved for courtship, while others point out the clear advantage of confusing a hungry predator in the dark. You watch the owl lean forward slightly, its feathers puffing out as it prepares to launch. Its talons flex. There's a strange grace to it, a quiet menace wrapped in softness, like a velvet glove hiding sharp claws. Somewhere in the swamp, another frog lets out a short, startled chirp as if it knows what's about to happen. And just as suddenly as the tension built, the owl springs from the branch. Its wings spread wide, soundless in their downward sweep. You can feel the rush of displaced air as it glides low over your hiding place. The frog lights blink faster, scattering their glow in patterns that seem to dance along the water. The owl's eyes stay locked on the brightest point, the spot where the largest glow pulses steady and sure, like a beacon calling it in. But here's where it gets interesting. As the owl descends, that glow shifts not with panic but with precision. The frog, small and unassuming, moves with a practiced hop that sends its light smearing across the water's surface like a brushstroke. The owl's talons tap at empty space, clutching nothing but cold night air and the faint shimmer of disturbed water. The predator veers off, circling back to its perch in the trees, feathers ruffled more in frustration than from the flight itself. The frog's lights pulse gently again, slow and rhythmic, as if mocking the hunter's failure. And you let out a breath you didn't know you were holding, heart hammering as if you'd been the target all along. Oddly enough, the ancient tree the owl favors is home to more than just feathered predators. The type of fungus growing on its trunk, sometimes called foxfire, also glows faintly in the dark, a trick of nature's chemistry involving luciferin oxygen and enzymes. Early travelers used to think these glowing patches were the eyes of forest spirits or hidden treasure. You wonder if the frogs and the fungus ever compared notes on how best to spook the locals. The owl gives a soft, frustrated hoot, barely louder than the rustle of leaves. Its eyes scan the swamp again, calculating, planning its next move. You stay as still as the frogs, now watching, learning. The night is far from over, and both predator and prey seem ready to play this ancient game until dawn. Another breeze stirs to the swamp, bringing with it the sharp scent of wet bark and the faint metallic tang of stagnant water. Somewhere deeper in the darkness, something large splashes, probably just a fish or maybe one of those prehistoric-looking turtles that haunt these swamps. But you can't help but glance that way, nerves on edge. The owl doesn't. Its focus is absolute, locked onto the glowing points below. Historians still argue whether owls in ancient times relied more on sight or sound in these hunts. Some suggest their ears, asymmetrical as they are, gave them an unparalleled edge in tracking prey by sound alone. Others insist that those enormous eyes with their tube-shaped structure were the key to their success. You suppose the frogs don't really care which theory is right so long as the owl misses. And tonight the frogs win the round. The owl settles again into its perch, talons flexing on the rough bark, eyes glinting with the promise of another attempt. But for now, the swamp belongs to the glow. The swamp feels as if it's holding its breath, and you, whether you mean to or not, are doing the same. The frogs, those odd little guardians of the marsh, continue their soft, flickering glow. It isn't steady like a lantern or the cold gleam of the moon. No, it pulses gently, rhythmically, like the heartbeat of the night itself. Their skin slick and glistening with swamp water amidst that ghostly blue-green light, casting faint ripples across the surface of the black pools around them. You inch closer, boots squelching softly in the mud, and marvel at how the glow seems alive, not just reflecting light, but generating it. The frogs' bodies shimmer with patterns that shift ever so slightly as they breathe, the glow pooling in lines along their sides, sometimes tracing the ridges of their spines, sometimes clustering near their legs. One frog hops lazily to a new perch, and for a second, its glow smears across a patch of still water like a painter's brush dragged through ink. Odd fact for you while we're here. There's a type of modern-day tree frog in the Amazon that actually does glow under UV light. It isn't bioluminescent in the classic firefly sense, but the skin contains compounds that fluoresce. So the idea that ancient frogs had this trick up their sleeves or well up their skin isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. As you watch, you notice that the frog's glow doesn't just randomly blink on and off. It follows a curious rhythm. Some glow brighter for a few heartbeats, then dim, while others flare up. It's like a living constellation spread out across the swamp's surface. Historians still debate whether this was purely a defense meant to confuse predators like that owl still brooding in the branches, or if it played a part in the frog's mating rituals. One theory suggests the glow signaled health or strength to potential partners. Another argues it was all about survival, the glow creating a field of false targets for night hunters. Either way it worked. The owl, you notice, hasn't given up. Its head swivels again, tracking the light show below. But there's hesitation now. You can almost feel the predator's frustration as the frog's glow patterns shift just enough to throw off its aim. The owl's eyes, huge and luminous, try to focus, but the swamp is a sea of distractions. The water reflects the glow. The reeds sway in the breeze and the frogs stay just out of reach. And there's something else you start to see as your eyes adjust fully to the gloom. The glow isn't constant over the frogs' entire bodies. It concentrates along certain lines and patches, almost like the ancient runes carved into standing stones. Patterns spiral along their backs, loop around their legs, and cluster near their throats. For a moment, you wonder if those markings meant something, if nature designed them with a purpose beyond beauty or confusion. Maybe they were signals, codes, and light only the frogs understood. Above, a cloud shifts, and the moon slips free for a few moments, its pale light washing over the swamp. The glow of the frogs dims a little in the moonlight's competition, but doesn't disappear entirely. The patterns are still there, faint and persistent, like the last embers of a dying fire. You can hear the soft buzz of insects, the far-off splash of a fish, and the occasional plop as a frog shifts position. The night air thickens, humid and heavy, wrapping you in its damp embrace. The smell of wet wood and decaying leaves clings to your skin. You swipe at a mosquito that's decided your ear is the best spot in the swamp, but the frog chorus keeps playing on as if your small struggles don't concern them. Somewhere deeper in the dark, another owl calls, a soft, haunting note that seems to echo forever. The owl above you responds with a low hoot of its own, as if to say, "I'm trying, okay." These frogs aren't making it easy. Historians still can't agree on when exactly frogs first developed their glowing defense. Some say it emerged alongside early nocturnal predators, part of an evolutionary arms race that shaped the swamp's ecosystem. Others suggest it was a byproduct of other skin compounds that just happened to glow like nature's happy accident. Either way, the glow persists, flickering on in the night like a stubborn candle in the wind. And you stay crouched, watching, learning. The frog's light paints the swamp in shifting patterns that seem almost too perfect to be chance. You can't shake the feeling that you're seeing something sacred, something that's been happening night after night for thousands, no millions of years, long before humans came along to witness it. A frog near your feet lets out a soft chirrup, its glow brightening briefly before fading back into the swamp's tapestry. The owl stirs again, wings flexing, but holds back, waiting. The dance continues, predator and prey locked in a silent battle of wits and light. And above all, the swamp watches. Your boots sink deeper into the muck with each careful step, the swamp greedily pulling at your feet as if it means to claim you. The frogs ahead, those little beacons of ancient mystery, continue their glow dance along the water's edge. But now, you're drawn closer, the pull of curiosity stronger than the swamp's grip. The frogs seem to sense it, or maybe they've grown bored of being watched one by one. They slip into the dark water, their glowing skin fading beneath the surface like stars swallowed by clouds. You try to follow, easing closer to where the frogs disappeared, but the ground betrays you. A patch of moss-covered mud gives way under your weight, and with an undignified splash that would embarrass even the clumsiest predator, you slide forward, one leg knee-deep in the cold, stinking water. The chill bites instantly, seeping through fabric and skin. You shiver, trying to steady yourself, feeling the slimy grip of submerged roots and reeds beneath the surface. The frogs, meanwhile, are nowhere to be seen. Their glow flickers faintly beneath the water, but the patterns are blurred now, distorted by ripples and the reflection of a fragmented moon. For a moment, it looks like the swamp itself is glowing, the light spreading out in soft veins beneath the surface. You squint, trying to pick out individual shapes, but the frogs are masters of their element. They vanish into the dark, leaving only those ghostly smudges behind. Funny thing about swamps, they hide more than just frogs and mud. Back in the day, ancient humans feared these places not only for their treacherous ground, but for the strange lights that sometimes floated above the water. will-o'-the-wisps, they called them. Historians still debate whether those eerie lights were caused by natural gases, bioluminescent creatures, or the fevered imaginations of travelers who'd had a bit too much fermented berry juice. The water is cold, but you press on, wading slowly now, trying not to make too much noise. Every step feels louder than it should, the splash of water, the squelch of mud, the soft rustle of reeds. But the swamp is kind. It absorbs the sounds, wraps them up in its thick, damp air, and carries them away. You pause and kneel low, peering into the water's dark mirror. There, they're still there. The frogs glowing faintly as they cling to submerged roots and stones. The light from their skin shimmers through the murky water, creating patterns on the muddy bottom that dance and shift with the ripples. You realize they aren't just hiding, they're positioning themselves, finding cover in the underwater labyrinth where even the keen-eyed owl above can't track them. And that owl, it's still there. You glance up to see it, watching feathers fluffed slightly against the night's damp chill. Its head tilts one way, then the other, those great unblinking eyes tracking every flicker of glow below. But now the owl's advantage is slipping. The water distorts the frog's light, refracting it into ghostly shapes that no predator's eye could follow with certainty. Odd off-topic fact. The swamp water around you might look lifeless, but there are tiny crustaceans called fairy shrimp that thrive in these kinds of seasonal pools. They've been around since the dinosaurs and can survive dry spells by laying eggs that stay dormant in the mud for years. Fairy shrimp, nature's little time travelers. You ease back slightly, careful not to slip again, and watch as the frog's glow becomes fainter, merging with the water's own shadows. The swamp hums softly with night sounds distant, croaks the buzz of insects, the quiet slap of water against roots. You can feel the patience of the place, the way it waits for dawn without hurry or concern. Historians still debate whether ancient frogs used their glow to communicate underwater as well as above. Some suggest that bioluminescence could have helped them coordinate movement in dark, murky pools like a silent language of light. Others argue that the glow was useless beneath the water that once submerged the frogs, relied purely on stealth and stillness. Tonight, though, it looks like the frogs are doing just fine, keeping their secrets from both predator and curious onlooker alike. The mud clings to your boots as you shift your weight, and you realize just how easily this place could swallow you up if you weren't careful. It's a sobering reminder that out here you're not at the top of the food chain or even the cleverest creature in the game. These frogs, small and seemingly fragile, have been outsmarting predators like the owl for longer than humans have been around to watch. One frog surfaces briefly, its glow a soft, steady beacon. It clings to a floating reed throat, pulsing gently as it lets out a quiet call. The light seems to swirl around it, blending with the moon's reflection and the faint shimmer of disturbed water. Then just as quickly it dives again, vanishing into the swamp's embrace. Above, the owl shifts once more, feathers rustling softly as it prepares to try again. But you can see the hesitation now, the way it waits, watching for a clearer target that never comes. The frogs have the advantage tonight, and they know it. And you stay low, soaked and muddy. Part of the night's quiet spectacle, a witness to the ancient game played out beneath the cover of darkness. The swamp settles again, wrapping its thick, wet arms around you as if to remind you who's in charge here. You crouch low, trying to blend into the reeds like the frogs, like the owl, like anything that might survive the night. Above, the owl makes its move. No more patience, no more calculation, just instinct sharpened over millennia, driving it forward. The bird's wings spread wide, ghostly pale in the faint moonlight. It drops soundlessly from its perch, talons, open eyes, locked onto one of the soft glows rippling beneath the water's surface. For a moment, it is the very image of grace and power, a silent missile streaking toward its target. You can feel the rush of air as it sweeps past the subtle tremor in the branch it left behind. But the swamp, as always, plays by its own rules. The owl's claws strike the water, splashing cold droplets across your face. It grabs nothing. The glow it aimed for was no frog at all, just a reflection, a ripple, a clever trick of light and movement. The owl's talons slice empty water and it pulls up short, flapping, hard to regain altitude. It circles once, then drifts back toward its branch feathers damp and mood undoubtedly sour. You can't help but grin even as you wipe the swamp water from your cheek. It's hard not to admire the frogs for this. So small, so fragile looking, and yet so skilled at turning the night itself into an ally. And the owl, well, the owl looks as if it's reconsidering its life choices. Maybe it's thinking about switching to a diet of earthworms. Odd fact for the night. Some ancient cultures believed owls were omens, messengers between the world of the living and the dead. You wonder what message this owl carries tonight. Maybe don't trust glowing frogs. The frogs keep glowing but more subtly now, as if they know they've won this round. Their light pulses gently like distant stars seen through a fogged window. Some drift farther into the reeds, their glow barely visible beneath the surface. Others cling to roots and stones, content to let the owl stew in its failure. Historians still debate whether this bioluminescence came at a cost. Some argue that glowing made the frogs targets for more than just owls, maybe snakes, maybe fish, maybe even curious early humans. Others suggest the glow's benefits outweighed any risks, turning the frogs into living illusions no predator could reliably conquer. The truth. Lost somewhere in the misty past, hidden beneath layers of mud and time. The owl shakes itself out, feathers fluffed, and wings twitching in irritation. It surveys the swamp with those wide, glassy eyes, as if daring the frogs to glow just a little brighter to give it another chance. But the frogs are too clever for that. Their glow flickers softly, blending with the moonlight, the reflections, the ripples. The owl is hunting ghosts now. You shift in place, feeling the cold seep deeper into your bones. The swamp is unkind that way, patient but unkind. You're soaked muddy and not exactly smelling like roses, but you wouldn't trade this moment. There's something magical about watching this ancient battle play out, knowing it's been happening for longer than you can comprehend. Somewhere farther off, another owl calls a soft, mournful sound that drifts through the trees like smoke. The owl above you answers, but it's a short, sharp note, more frustration than conversation. Maybe owls have their own way of saying, "I give up." A breeze stirs the reeds, carrying with it the scent of wet earth, decaying leaves, and something sharp and metallic, maybe iron from the soil, maybe just the tang of stagnant water. The frogs remain where they are, little lanterns in the dark, their glow steady now, confident. It's easy to see why early humans might have been both fascinated and spooked by these creatures. Imagine stumbling across this scene by accident without the benefit of science or modern understanding. Little glowing animals slipping through the night, always a step ahead of their predators. No wonder stories of spirit frogs or magical swamp lights sprang up in old folklore. The owl watches a while longer. Then with a soft sweep of its wings, it lifts off, gliding deeper into the swamp's shadowy heart in search of easier prey. Maybe a mouse, maybe a beetle, anything less tricky than these living stars. And you stay breath, slow heart, steady, watching the frogs reclaim the night. Their glow softens further, as if they too feel the tension ebbing from the swamp. The water calms, the ripples fade, and the swamp resumes its quiet breathing. The game is over for now. The swamp hums around you, a soft, steady chorus of night sounds that fills the air like mist. The frogs begin their song again, their voices blending into a symphony of chirps, croaks, and clicks. It's not loud, not overpowering, just enough to remind you that the swamp is alive and always has been. The glow from their skin pulses in time with the music, or maybe it's the music that follows the light. It's hard to tell. You're caught in it now, part of the night's rhythm, whether you meant to be or not. Their glow has changed since the owl's failed attack. Before, it was bright, deliberate, like a challenge. Now it's subtler, gentler, flickering in soft patterns that seem random but probably aren't. Some frogs cluster together, their lights overlapping to create little patches of shimmering silver blue on the water. Others space themselves out, their glow blinking on and off like distant stars trying to outshine each other. The owl is gone for now, but you sense it isn't far. The frogs know it too. Their glow seems to respond to the predator's cautious absence, relaxing a little but never fading completely. The chorus rises and falls, a gentle wave of sound that lulls the swamp back into its ancient rhythm. You can feel it in your bones, that slow, timeless beat of life in the marsh. Funny thing, scientists once tried to record frog choruses in places like this and found that the frogs' calls actually change depending on how many other frogs are nearby. The more crowded the swamp, the more complicated the song. It's like each frog is trying to find its own voice in the choir. Tonight, the choir is in fine form, and you're the only one lucky or unlucky enough to be sitting in the front row. The glow itself takes on a strange quality now. It seems to drift beyond the frogs as if the light is leaking into the swamp, joining the reflections on the water and the silver sheen on the reeds. You blink, trying to separate frog from reflection, glow from moonlight, but it's impossible. The swamp is one great shimmering mirror, and you're trapped inside it. Historians still debate whether early humans who lived near these wetlands tried to mimic the frog's chorus or patterns of light in their own rituals. Some cave markings hint at rhythmic symbols that might match ancient frog calls. Others argue that's wishful thinking, just coincidence layered over millennia of erosion and imagination. Still, you can't help but wonder as you sit there listening to the night's music. Maybe our ancestors heard this same chorus and felt the same chill down their spines, the same sense of being small in the face of nature's quiet power. Another breeze stirs the swamp, setting the reeds swaying and adding a soft rustle to the chorus. The frogs don't seem to mind. Their glow continues to flicker, matching the movement of the plants, the ripples of the water, the dance of the clouds across the moon. Everything in harmony, everything in time. You shift your weight, trying not to sink deeper into the mud, and watch as one frog hops onto a floating patch of moss. Its glow brightens for a moment, casting a soft halo that seems to draw the eyes of every other creature in the swamp. But no predator comes. The frog calls once clear, strong, as if announcing its victory over the night, and then settles down, the glow fading back into the soft pulse of the chorus. Odd fact. In some parts of the world, people used to believe that frog songs could predict the weather. A louder, more urgent chorus meant rain was coming. Maybe that's true. Maybe tonight's song is a forecast, a warning, or just a celebration of another successful escape from the owl's talons. The frog's glow flickers on, blending into the night's tapestry. You lose track of time, caught in the endless dance of light and sound. The swamp holds you in its embrace, a silent witness to the age-old game playing out beneath the stars. And as the frogs sing and shine, the night hums along, ancient and unchanging. You're starting to feel as if the swamp is pulling you deeper, not just physically with its clinging mud and water that creeps higher up your boots, but into its ancient mysteries. The frogs, those little artists of the night, keep up their slow pulse of glow and song, and you wonder why glow at all. Why risk being seen by every hungry eye out here? Historians still debate whether that glow was meant for survival or romance. Some argue it was a defense, a trick of nature to fool owls, snakes, and anything else with a taste for tender amphibian. Others insist it was all about finding the perfect partner in the dark, like waving a tiny lantern, and hoping the right someone notices. It's one of those endless academic tug-of-wars with no clear answer. And tonight, the frogs aren't saying. They just keep glowing, keep singing, as if the question itself is missing the point. You watch as a pair of frogs draw close, their soft lights overlapping to form a larger patch of brightness on the water. The patterns of their glow spiral together for a few heartbeats, then drift apart again, as if testing some secret code. Maybe this is the romance camp's evidence the frogs using their glow to flirt. Or maybe it's all just part of the larger illusion meant to keep predators guessing. Above the owl returns, or perhaps it never really left. You catch a glimpse of it gliding between the trees, a pale shadow with eyes that glint faintly in the moonlight. It watches the frogs dance as puzzled as you are. The glow reflects in the water, in the reeds, in droplets hanging from the trees everywhere and nowhere all at once. The owl shifts on its branch, clearly weighing whether the effort is worth it. A mosquito finds your ear again and you swat at it with a sigh, earning a tiny splash that sends new ripples across the swamp's surface. The frogs don't mind. Their chorus continues rising and falling, a slow wave of sound that seems to answer the breeze. You recall an odd fact that makes you smirk despite yourself. In the Middle Ages, some folks believed that frogs could control the weather or even summon rain. Imagine that. Little glowing frog wizards croaking up a storm. The idea seems less ridiculous when you're out here watching these ancient creatures work their magic on the night itself. The glow grows more intricate as your eyes adjust. Some frogs' lights flicker faster while others pulse slower and deeper, like the beat of a drum you can't quite hear. The patterns don't repeat exactly, but they feel deliberate, as if the frogs are weaving a tapestry of light across the swamp. Historians still can't decide if early humans saw these frogs as sacred. Some cave markings show small round figures surrounded by radiating lines. Could those be frogs, or just symbols for the sun, the stars, or some long-forgotten deity? The debates go on with no end in sight. But here tonight, the frogs are gods of their world, lighting the dark with their gentle glow. You stay low, breath quiet, heart slowing to match the night's rhythm. The frogs keep singing, keep shining, and the swamp hums along ancient and eternal. The night stretches on thick, with the scent of wet earth moss and something sour-sweet that could be decay or could be blooming swamp flowers you're too polite to sniff too deeply and find out. The frog's glow seems stronger now, or maybe your eyes have simply grown so used to the dark that their every flicker feels brighter. Either way, the swamp is alive with tiny pulses of light scattered like embers on black water. The owl hasn't given up. You hear the faint rustle of feathers overhead, see a pale streak gliding silently from one tree to another, its eyes flashing as it tracks the glow below. And the frogs. Oh, they know. The glow patterns change yet again faster now, in some places slower in others. It's like watching a living starlight map shifting before your eyes. The pulses don't match up, don't create an easy target. One glow brightens and dims just as another flares up somewhere else. The swamp is a maze of false signals, and the owl is trapped in it. It tries. Again and again it tries. You watch as the owl makes another silent dive, wings tucked in tight talons, reaching for what it's sure is a frog. But the glow it snatches at is only a reflection or a ripple or a trick of the reeds. The owl pulls up empty, frustrated wings, beating hard to lift its damp feathers back into the air. It circles once, twice, then returns to its perch, eyes burning with the need to understand what just happened. You can't help it, you whisper. Nice try, buddy, under your breath, earning yourself a mosquito in the mouth for your troubles. Here's an odd off-topic fact to distract you while you spit out the bug. Some species of ancient owls were enormous, big enough to take down small deer. Imagine those giant feathered hunters prowling this swamp, fooled by frogs no bigger than your palm. The idea makes you grin even as you wonder how any creature could survive in a world where the night was ruled by owls the size of toddlers. The frogs continue their glow show, the patterns shifting again. You start to see a kind of teamwork in it, glows that seem to take turns brightening like the frogs are passing a baton of light from one to another. Historians still debate whether this coordination was intentional. Some argue that the frogs evolved to confuse predators by mimicking the scattered glints of starlight on water. Others think it's all accidental, just the random outcome of individual frogs trying not to be dinner. Either way, it worked. The owl tries again. Another dive, another splash, another empty talon. You can feel its frustration, see it in the way it fluffs its feathers, tilts its head, narrows its eyes. The frog glow flickers like laughter, soft and steady, as if the swamp itself is mocking the predator's failure. You shift slightly cold mud creeping higher on your boots and wonder how many nights like this have played out over the ages. How many owls have been outwitted by these small, glowing tricksters? How many predators have given up and gone in search of easier prey? The frogs, for all their size, are the masters here, their glow both a beacon and a barrier. The night hums on the chorus, rising and falling in waves. The owl waits, watching, plotting its next move, but you can see it's losing faith. The swamp is winning, the frogs are winning, and you're just lucky to be here watching the ancient game unfold. You crouch lower now, knees aching, mud creeping up your shins like the swamp's cold handshake. The frogs are scattered across the water's edge, and the floating mats of moss, their glow pulsing like soft breathing. But what catches your eye isn't just the random flicker of light anymore. No, you're starting to see a pattern, an unspoken coordination among these tiny swamp dwellers. One frog's glow flares up, bright and steady, drawing the owl's gaze. The predator's head tilts, talons flex on the branch. But just as the owl leans forward, wings poised for the strike, the first glow dims, and another frog's light brightens several feet away. The owl hesitates, confused by the switch. You can almost hear the inner dialogue. Wait, didn't I just lock onto you? And then it happens again. A glow here, a glow there. The frogs are passing the spotlight between them like stage performers sharing a solo. No wonder the owl's been missing all night. You realize these little amphibians aren't just random lights in the dark, they're a team working the swamp's shadows to their advantage. Historians still debate whether this was a deliberate strategy or just the happy result of individual survival instincts syncing up. Some scholars suggest ancient frogs evolved to detect one another's glow and adjust their own patterns accordingly, creating a kind of communal defense. Others argue it's all coincidence, nothing more than nature's randomness playing out on a grand stage. Either way, the result is the same. The owl is stumped, and the frogs remain unharmed. Above, the owl shifts its perch again, feathers, ruffled eyes wide and unblinking as it tries to decipher the swamp's living Morse code. It watches one glow after another, pop up, fade, pop up again, never in the same place twice. Its head swivels, desperate to find a rhythm it can trust, but the frogs keep outmaneuvering it with their silent symphony of light. You almost feel bad for the owl. Almost. But then you remember how sharp those talons looked and how determined those eyes still are. The predator will get another chance. The swamp is patient. And here's a strange fact to chew on. Fireflies aren't the only creatures that coordinate their glow. In certain parts of Southeast Asia, whole colonies of fireflies flash in perfect unison, lighting up riverbanks like strings of fairy lights. Maybe these ancient frogs were the pioneers of that glow game, setting the stage for future generations of luminous tricksters. You shift your weight, feeling the mud suck at your boots again, and wonder what it would be like to see this from above, to be the owl staring down at a swamp filled with tiny flickering lights that seem to move with purpose, always a step ahead. No wonder the predator hesitates. The swamp is a labyrinth of false leads, and every glow is another dead end. The frogs stay close to the reeds, now their glow reflecting in the still water, doubling the confusion. Each light seems to cast a twin, a ghost image that drifts just out of reach. The owl twitches its wings, ready to try again, but you can see the doubt creeping in. It's been fooled too many times tonight. Historians still argue whether early humans observed these glow patterns and learned from them. Some think ancient hunters may have mimicked the frog's teamwork when stalking prey in the dark, using signals and silent cues to coordinate. Others say that's giving humans too much credit after all the frogs had been playing this game long before we came along. The owl waits, the frogs glow, the swamp hums with night music, and you caught between predator and prey stay very, very still, hoping not to draw any attention of your own. Your muscles ache from crouching so long, but you hardly notice anymore. The swamp's spell has taken hold. The frogs glow, the owl's restless shifts, the chorus of chirps and croaks blending into a kind of hypnotic hum. You blink, shake your head, trying to stay sharp, but the night pulls at you like a warm, damp blanket. And then you see it movement. Not the owl this time? No, this comes from farther along the swamp's edge where the reeds part just enough for shapes to slip through. Shapes that stand upright, shadows that don't belong to the frogs or the birds. Early humans. Figures clothed in animal skins, faces marked with ash or mud, watching just as you are. They move carefully, silently, blending into the night, as though they've been taught by the swamp itself. Their eyes gleam faintly in the dim light reflecting the frog's glow. You can feel their focus sharp and deliberate. They're not here by accident. They're watching, studying, learning. Historians still debate whether these ancient observers came to the swamp to hunt, to worship, or simply to marvel at the frogs' light show. Some suggest early people believed the frogs were messengers of the spirit world, their glow a sign of guidance or warning. Others argue they were practical folk looking for patterns that might help them track prey or predict the movements of predators like the owl. No one knows for sure, but tonight it looks like they're doing what you're doing, waiting, watching, trying to understand. One of the figures crouches low, finger pointing toward a cluster of frogs glowing at the water's edge. The others nod as if acknowledging some unspoken plan. They move closer, slow and measured, careful not to disturb the swamp's fragile balance. You can see the respect in their posture, the way they pause before each step, testing the ground, listening to the night's hum. The frogs, for their part, seem unbothered. Their glow continues in soft pulses, steady and calm. The early humans keep their distance, not wanting to break the spell. There's wisdom in that. Out here, it's the quiet watcher who survives. Odd fact. In some ancient cultures, frogs were seen as symbols of transformation, partly because of their life cycle, partly because of their ability to thrive in two worlds, water and land. You wonder if these early swamp dwellers saw the glow as part of that magic proof that the frogs could move between realms unseen. The owl stirs again, feathers rustling, talons gripping the branch tighter. The humans freeze their eyes, flicking upward. You can almost feel their breath hitch, their hearts beat faster. For a moment, predator. Prey and people are locked in the same rhythm, all part of the swamp's ancient game. One of the humans makes a soft clicking sound with his tongue barely audible over the night's chorus. A signal. A charm. Maybe both. The owl hesitates, then launches into the air. Wing wide, gliding low over the water in one last attempt. The frog's glow shifts again, coordinated and clever, leading the owl into another chase with no prize at the end. The early humans watch it, all their faces unreadable in the dark. You can imagine them returning to their camp later, telling the tale of the glowing frogs and the frustrated owl. Maybe they'll draw it on stone, maybe they'll pass it down in stories whispered by the fire. The swamp keeps its secrets, but it always leaves something behind for those who pay attention. And tonight, you're lucky enough to be paying attention. The night holds still for a breath, the kind of pause where everything feels balanced on the edge of something. The frog's glow pulses gently along the water's edge, the swamp's dark mirror broken only by the ripples of their careful movements. You squint through the reeds, trying to follow one of the brighter glows. A young frog smaller than the others, bold enough to perch a little closer to open water. Above, the owl returns to its silent vigil. Its wings tucked tight against its body, eyes fixed on that one promising glow. You can almost see the calculation happening. The frog is small. Exposed, surely this time the strike will succeed. The owl shifts its weight, feathers rustling softly, then dives. The frog senses it, whether from the rush of air, the whisper of feathers, or just instinct honed over countless generations. It leaps at the last second, a perfect arc of tiny legs and luminous skin. The owl's talons snap through empty space claws, slicing a trail through the water instead. But not quite empty. The frog's desperate jump leaves behind more than ripples. It leaves a scrap of glowing skin torn free by the owl's near miss. The piece of skin drifts down through the water, glowing faintly like a tiny lantern settling among the reeds. The owl circles back, talons empty, but with the faint taste of victory on its beak. It lands again on a gnarled branch, feathers fluffed in irritation, watching as the glow fades from the fragment of skin below. You lean closer, fascinated. The scrap glimmers like a fallen star, its light softening as the frog disappears into deeper water. Odd, isn't it? Some ancient amphibians were thought to shed their skin regularly, not just to grow but as a defense. A predator might grab hold of skin and get nothing but a mouthful of decoy while the frog slipped away. Maybe this young frog's ancestors perfected that trick, combining glowing skin with easy shedding to fool their enemies. Historians still debate whether the glow of the skin itself persisted after being shed. Some argue it was part of the frog's living chemistry, fading the instant it left the body. Others suggest the glow lingered for precious seconds, long enough to mislead a predator into thinking it still had its prize. Tonight, it seems the latter is true. The owl watches the floating scrap, unsure whether it's won or been fooled once more. You feel a little sympathy for the predator. The swamp is a master of illusions, and tonight, it's the frogs who have the upper hand, or upper webbed foot in this case. The young frog's glow reappears for a moment, farther off, a soft flicker among the reeds, then vanishes again beneath the water. Safe, for now. Odd fact to lighten the mood. There's a species of modern frog in Southeast Asia called the parachute frog, because it can spread its toes wide and glide from tree to tree. You wonder if ancient frogs ever tried the same trick, glowing as they soared through the swamp's dark canopy like tiny living comets. The swamp's hum resumes its steady rhythm. The chorus of frogs picks up again, their glow softening back into its familiar pulse. The owl stays still, watching, waiting, learning the hard lesson of the night. And you sit in quiet awe, a witness to nature's ancient battle of light, shadow, and survival. The night deepens as if the swamp itself is drawing a heavy blanket tighter over the land. You shift where you crouch, the mud, cold and unkind against your legs, but your eyes stay fixed on the water's surface. The frogs continue their slow flickering ballet of light, their glow weaving in and out of reeds and reflections. The owl watches too, feathers damp, frustration hanging heavy on its hunched frame. But tonight the swamp has one more player to send into the game. From the tangle of roots near the water's edge, you spot it, movement so smooth, so deliberate it takes your breath for a second. A snake. Its scales catch the faint glow of the frog's, shimmering like wet bronze. As it glides forward, a ripple of muscle and hunger. The reeds barely stir as it passes, and you realize it's been watching all along, biding its time, while owl and frog dance their ancient dance. The snake's head rises slightly above the water tongue, flicking, tasting the air. Its body coils in slow motion, slipping between moss and mud, edging closer to where a small frog clings to a root, its glow steady, unaware. The owl notices too, head-tilting, eyes narrowing. Predator watching predator, both calculating the same prize. Historians still debate whether such moments of overlap between predators shape the behavior of prey species like these glowing frogs. Did the frog's glow evolve to fool one hunter and end up confusing another? Or did multiple threats working at once force the frogs to master their luminous tricks? There's no answer written in the mud, only guesses and the silent testimony of nights like this. You hold your breath as the snake lunges, quick as a whip crack, jaws parting just as its head breaks the water's surface. But the glow shifts at the last instant. The frog leaps, the water erupts and ripples, and the snake's teeth snap on empty air. The predator pulls back, coils, tightening body, rippling with tension. The owl shifts on its perch, wings half spread as if ready to dive in and claim what the snake couldn't. But the frogs are too clever. Their glow too practiced. The pattern changes again, light flashing here and there, drawing attention in a dozen directions at once. The snake sways confused. The owl waits uncertain. And the swamp hums on a chorus of frogs, insects, and soft mocking ripples. Odd fact for you while the tension crackles. Ancient snakes some as long as buses once roamed swamps much like this. Titanoboa, they called one of the largest. Imagine a snake so big it wouldn't need to trick frogs, it could just gulp down whole branches with them, still clinging on. Tonight's hunter is modest by comparison, but no less determined. The snake tries again, slipping closer, jaws parting once more, but the glow shifts yet again, another near miss. The owl watches, learning. The frogs win another round. And you? You stay very, very still, knowing the swamp's ancient drama isn't over yet. The air thickens heavy with the kind of quiet that makes you pause, makes you listen harder for the faintest sound. The frog's glow continues to shimmer, casting soft halos along the water, but now the night itself begins to shift. A low rumble rolls through the swamp, distant at first, like the growl of some ancient creature waking beneath the earth. Then another, closer, deeper. The first hints of rain, fat drops that patter on the wide leaves on the water's surface on your shoulders, fall with gentle insistence. The frogs don't stop. Their glow flickers steadily as if the storm is just another part of their nightly rhythm. But you feel it the way the swamp changes under the coming rain. The breeze freshens, carrying the scent of ozone and wet bark. The reeds sway harder, their soft rustle now, a chorus of whispers that fill the space between thunder's growls. The owl shifts its grip on the branch feathers, ruffling against the wind. It hesitates, a head tilting as it weighs its options. Rain blurs the reflections on the water, turns every glow into a streak, a smear, a moving target. If the frog's light confused the predator, before the storm adds another layer of trickery. Every ripple becomes a hiding place, every droplet a new distortion. The snake too falters. Its body tenses, coils tighter, unsure whether to strike again or retreat into the safety of roots and mud. The rain makes it harder to taste the air, harder to follow the glow it had pinned its hopes on. You can almost feel its frustration in the way it freezes, waiting for the storm to decide the night's outcome. Historians still debate whether the frog's bioluminescence gave them an edge during storms. Some argue that the glow helped them keep track of one another in the chaos, signal among kin to stay close and safe. Others suggest the glow made them easier for predators to spot when the rain muddied the swamp's reflections. The truth. Lost beneath millennia of mud and rainwater washed clean by nights like this. The rain falls harder, now steady and sure, drumming on the leaves and the water's surface. The frog's glow softens, blurred by the rain's endless ripples. Yet they keep singing, their calls rising above the storm's rhythm, a reminder that life carries on, storm or no storm. Odd fact to break the tension. Some species of modern frogs will actually call louder when it rains, as if trying to outsing the storm. You wonder if these ancient frogs are doing the same voices lifted in defiance or celebration, or maybe just because it's what they've always done when the sky opens up. You stay low, soaked through but unable to look away. The swamp is transformed, a shimmering, rippling world of light and water and sound. The owl flaps off into the deeper trees, seeking shelter or easier prey. The snake melts back into the roots, vanishing like a dream at dawn. The frogs remain, their glow dimmer but steadfast, pulsing in time with the rain's soft roar. And the swamp hums on, eternal, unchanged, beneath storm and starlight alike. The storm reaches its peak, rain falling in sheets so thick, the swamp's edges blur into shadow. The air pulses with the crackle of lightning far off beyond the trees, and thunder rolls over the land in great shaking waves. You crouch lower, feeling the rain soak through to your bones, but your eyes stay fixed on the night's fading glow. The owl, determined or perhaps desperate, makes one final attempt. It launches from its perch, wings wide, gliding low over the water's surface, seeking the brightest patch of glow it can find. Its flight is no longer silent. The rain hammers its feathers, the wind tugs at its path. But the owl presses on, talons outstretched, eyes locked onto what it hopes is the prize that will make this miserable wet hunt worthwhile. The frogs are ready. The glow shifts again, subtle at first, a dimming here, a brightening there. The patterns become more erratic, more unpredictable, each frog adding its own note to the swamp's light symphony. Reflections fracture in the rippling water, doubling and tripling the points of light until the swamp looks like a shattered mirror catching the last light of stars. The owl dives, claws slicing the air, snapping down toward a bright, steady glow near a cluster of reeds. For a moment, it seems certain this is the strike that will finally succeed. But at the last instant, the glow flickers out, replaced by another several feet away. The owl's talons close on nothing but water and shadow. A splash, a spray of droplets, and then the bird pulls up, hard wings beating against the rain, fighting for height, for safety, for dignity. You watch as it retreats, feathers slick tight against its body, flying deeper into the trees where the storm's fury is a little less fierce. The swamp has taught its lesson well tonight. Even the keenest eye can be fooled, even the strongest hunter outwitted. Historians still debate whether the frog's glow evolved specifically to foil night predators like this. Some argue it was a happy side effect, an adaptation that served multiple purposes, mating, camouflage, maybe even communication. Others believe it was honed over millennia of these very encounters, each failed strike helping to perfect the glow's deceptions. Either way, the result is the same: the frogs live to see another dawn. You take a slow breath, the smell of rain and wet earth filling your lungs. The storm begins to ease, the heavy sheets of water softening to a steady drizzle. The frog's glow dims in the rain's softened light, but it doesn't disappear. It pulses gently, still the heartbeat of the swamp itself, steady and sure. Odd fact: some ancient myths spoke of animals that could control storms, calling rain or driving it away with their cries or songs. Tonight, you almost believe it. The frog's chorus rises again, stronger now that the worst of the storm has passed, their voices mingling with the soft patter of rain, filling the night with music that feels as old as the swamp itself. You sit back on your heels, soaked, muddy, and oddly grateful. You've seen something tonight that most will never witness: a quiet battle of light and instinct, played out in shadows and rain, older than memory. The frog's glow on the swamp breathes easy, and the owl slips away wiser, if not fuller, than when the night began. The night exhales at last. The rain softens to a misty drizzle, the storm's rage spent, leaving the swamp glistening under a sky that begins to pale at the edges. The first hints of dawn creep through the trees, a cool gray that promises light, though it isn't here just yet. You sit back, breath slowing, watching as the swamp stirs from its long, wet dream. The frog's glow, so defiant in the night, begins to fade. Not all at once, no. They don't surrender the darkness that easily. The light softens, first dimming at the edges, flickering less often until each pulse is slower, gentler, as if the frogs themselves are growing weary. The reflections in the water blur further as the sky brightens, the soft silver light of dawn washing over the swamp's black mirror. You can see the frogs more clearly now. Their shapes no longer just points of light, but small, delicate bodies clinging to reeds, stones, and patches of moss. Without their glow, they seem smaller, somehow more vulnerable, but also more real. The swamp's illusion is lifting, and what's left behind is no less remarkable. The owl is gone, slipped back into the trees, or perhaps farther still, seeking a drier perch, or maybe licking its wounds in the quiet way of the guided hunters. The snake, too, has vanished, no trace left but a faint path in the mud where its coils disturb the night. The swamp belongs to the frogs again, as it always does when dawn comes. Historians still debate whether the frogs controlled their glow or if it simply responded to the night like flowers that open to the moon. Some argue the fading light at dawn was an intentional retreat, a signal that danger had passed. Others think it was just a natural consequence of their chemistry, the glow fading as the conditions that made it possible slipped away with the dark. Either way, the effect is the same as day breaks. The swamp stars go out one by one. The breeze shifts cooler now, carrying the scent of fresh rain and clean earth. You close your eyes for a moment, letting it wash over you, the air crisp and new, as if the storm had scoured the night clean. When you look again, the swamp is bathed in soft light, the first real sun of morning catching on the water's ripples. The frogs are still resting, perhaps their long night's work done. Odd fact to leave you with. In some places, early morning light was believed to be a kind of magic able to cleanse curses or reveal hidden truths. You smile at that, thinking of the night you've just witnessed, the truths hidden in glow and shadow in the dance of predator and prey. The swamp quiets the frog's chorus, settling into the softer notes of morning. You rise slowly, mud clinging stubbornly to your boots, and take one last look at the place where light and darkness played their ancient game. The frogs remain small and silent, their glow now just a memory in the soft dawn. And you step away, leaving the swamp to its quiet, knowing you've seen something few ever will. A night of deception, survival, and the strange, gentle magic of glowing skin. And so dawn claims the swamp, its gentle light washing away the last of the night's secrets. You move away from the water's edge, leaving behind the frogs whose glowing skin fooled the sharpest of hunters. The owl, that silent predator of the night, has retreated to its hidden perch, empty-taloned and wiser. The snake with its patient coils has melted back into the roots, leaving no sign of its failed hunt. And the frogs, their light fades with the night, their ancient deception complete. The storm that swept through, drumming its wild rhythm on the swamp, is now only a memory. Puddles where thunder fell, leaves shining with the last of the rain. The frog's chorus softens, no longer defiant, but content, as if they too welcome the quiet of morning. The swamp hums with a different kind of magic, now the magic of survival, of having outwitted danger for another night. Historians may continue their debates about whether the frogs glowed to confuse, to court, or simply because the night demanded it. The swamp offers no answers, only the soft whisper of reeds in the breeze and the fading ripples of vanished predators. You leave with mud on your boots, the sound of the frog's song in your ears, and the memory of a night where light and shadow played their ageless game before your eyes. As you walk away, the swamp fades behind you. The frogs glow now just a soft echo in the growing light. You feel the hush of the place follow you, a reminder that some mysteries belong to the night and are content to stay hidden there.